friends. Today I want to share two short readings with you, and both will be taken from the New Revised Standard Version of the Bible. The first comes from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 6, verse 12, and it says, "Now during those days he went out to the mountain to pray, and he spent the night in prayer to God." The second is from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 6, verse 30 and 31. It says, "The apostles gathered around Jesus and told him all that they had done and taught. He said to them, 'Come away to a deserted place all by yourselves and rest for a while.'" Today I'd like to invite you to reflect on the concept of silence and solitude. We spend a lot of time speaking to one another and sometimes to God. And while that is very important, I wonder what it will be like if we spent less time speaking and more time in quiet contemplation. How will that impact our lives, our relationships with others, and our relationship with God? Many of the great spiritual leaders practiced some form of silence and solitude, including Jesus Christ. In Luke's Gospel, chapter 6, the text says, Jesus went up to the mountain to pray, and he spent the night there. During his life and ministry, Jesus frequently left his disciples and the crowds which followed him to be by himself. He spent time alone before making big decisions. He spent 40 days in the wilderness by himself before he began his ministry. When he learned that his friend and his cousin, John the Baptist, had died, he retreated into silence. The disciples often woke up on mornings to find that Jesus wasn't with them. Early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus went for walks where he could be alone. He found his way to wilderness places, mountain tops, near the seaside, and in gardens. Jesus valued quiet, silence, and solitude. But Jesus didn't only practice silence. He also encouraged his disciples to do so. In Mark's Gospel, chapter 6, the disciples had gathered around Jesus and were telling him all about what they had done and what they had taught. And look at what Jesus does. He tells them to go away to a deserted place and rest for a while. He knew that they were dedicated to the work. But he also understood that they would be tired and they needed to get away from the crowds and the noise. He knew that they needed a break from the work that they were doing every day. The text says, after Jesus told them to go away, they got into the boat and went off to a deserted place to find refreshment, to be re-energized. Most of us don't view silence and quiet time as something desirable. As a matter of fact, we don't even view it as a spiritual discipline. A spiritual discipline is something we practice to grow closer to God. Some spiritual disciplines are prayer, devotional readings, and worship. But silence should also be recognized as a spiritual discipline. One of the main reasons we don't practice or value silence is because our culture doesn't value silence. This is how one writer puts it. We live in a culture in which our lives are a symphony composed of telephones, doorbells, dishwashers, lawnmowers, car horns, radios, and the list goes on. Most of our jobs are loud. And when we get home at the end of the workday, our homes aren't quiet either. The TV is blaring until we go to sleep, and some of us don't even turn the TV off. Silence isn't even considered an option. And so we fill our lives with activity and noise every day, all day long. But consider this: noise is overrated. Noise keeps us focused on the superficial and unimportant. When we fill our lives with noise, we don't give ourselves the chance to feel the pain which is so real in our lives. We think that if we keep the TV on, we wouldn't recognize that we are alone in the house because we don't like that feeling. Some of us think that we must be productive every second of every day. And if we sit still even for a few minutes, we must have too much time on our hands. Then we experience burnout. We put off spending time in quiet and in silence by saying, someday I'll have the time to do that. When I get through school, when things slow down, or when I get married, things will calm down. When the children move out, then life will ease up. Or when I retire, every day will be a vacation. But friends, we need to take time out in the present and make silence and quiet time a part of our everyday lives. Brett Younger, a theologian, says this about silence. He says, magnificent things happen in silence. Concerns are reevaluated. Attitudes are changed. Friendships are better understood. Fears are examined. Frustrations are relieved. The big picture is clarified. Trivial things are pushed aside. Possibilities are discovered. Unrealistic expectations are discerned. Hopes become clear. Memories take on new meaning. Directions are chosen. Tensions are lessened. And sometimes faith moves to the center, and God does indescribable things in our lives. In summary, silence can recreate us and place us in a new direction. Has anything I've said today resonated with you? If it has, are you willing to turn down the noise of the world in which you live and turn up the silence? Are you willing to embrace what silence and solitude can mean for you? Are you in need of that refreshment, that peace that washes over us when we turn off all the voices which are always demanding something from us? If the answer is yes, make the decision today to take a few moments every day and sit without any interruption or disturbance, away from the hustle and bustle of your routine. Turn off the TV. Put your smartphone on silent mode. Take a short break from Facebook and Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Pinterest, and all the others. And something extraordinary will happen. Your minds will be refreshed, and so will your spirits. In the quiet time, you'll find peace. You'll find serenity. But most of all, you'll find yourself and become more in touch with yourself and the plans that God has for you. I want to leave you with these words from Thomas Merton, one of the most influential American Catholic authors of the 20th century. This is what he says: to deliver oneself up, to hand oneself over, entrust oneself completely to the silence of a wide landscape of woods and hills, or sea or desert. To sit still while the sun comes up over that hill and fills its silences with light. To pray and work in the morning, and to labor and rest in the afternoon, and to sit still again in meditation in the evening when night falls upon that land, and when the silence fills itself with darkness and with stars. This is a true and special vocation. There are few who are willing to belong completely to such silence, to let it soak into their bones, to breathe nothing but silence, to feed on silence, and to turn the very substance of their life into a living and vigilant silence. So as you continue your journey today, turn down the noise and turn up the silence. The grass withers and the flower fades, but the word of the Lord abides forever. Have a blessed and wonderful day. Goodbye for now.